Rob Stein's up first. Rob.
All right, and thank you for welcoming me back. This was Charlie Moad from the Indianapolis Museum of Art was supposed to present this, but he unfortunately couldn't be with us this afternoon. So this is work that Charlie and I started in Indianapolis, so I'd be happy to talk to you a little bit about it. What we want to talk about is in response to what we heard earlier today about write once, publish everywhere. But what does it begin to look like as we have an increasingly multi-platform world? And I think we've already talked this morning a little bit about the kiosk problem, or many of us have created really wonderful content over the years and stuffed them into a variety of different kiosks. And now the problem that we have is that we still love it. This is an example kiosk of African objects from the Indianapolis Museum of Art, and again built in Flash and very bespoke at the time. And you would think that it'd be easy to take it to an iPad and just reuse that, but in fact not so much. And I think the issue that is really getting us here is this P3 issue. And so P3 is the pesky platform proliferation. And so if you're thinking about the stories that your museum or venue has to tell today, you may be seeing those on laptops on the web. We talked about mobile phones already today. Certainly tablets require different presentation and interaction. Print is still just another platform. Many of us are publishing both electronically, online, and in print simultaneously. And how do you have print be just another one of those platforms? Also, television, or we talk about the 10-foot user interface. So what does that user interface for your museum's content look like when you're surfing it from the couch, as opposed to something that you hold in your hand? All of these are platforms that we want to publish to, but we don't yet know what's coming next. So will it be displays embedded in your glasses? Would it be the hologram from our favorite Star Wars movies, or the augmented reality that we've begun to hear about a little bit from Singapore today already? The one thing that we really can count on is that we can't count on anything. It's all changing, and the technology cycles of change are predictable. You can count for sure that in this conference next year, there'll be half a dozen new technology platforms that all of us will be trying to publish to. The things that don't change are the content in your collections and the stories that we have to tell about them. So it would make a lot more sense to begin to focus on that more directly. I have this question: is this what our mobile content looks like in 10 years? So as we begin to tell more and more stories and we begin to collect them, without the right kind of organization, do we just get this shop of bric-a-brac and without any real ability to put it to good use? So this begs the question about what online storytelling really looks like. And in the beginning, we had a fairly straightforward model of what telling a story online was. It was fairly linear, and recently we've gotten a bit more sophisticated in a kind of a hypertext linking, cross-linking. You could think of this almost as a choose-your-own-adventure, where the visitor, the audience, has some amount of control in the way that they are receiving the story. But as you take this to its logical conclusions, it eventually gets really, really complicated and begs the question about what the content management strategies are that allow you to tell stories across multiple platforms. So that's kind of where I want to go today and talk specifically about two different directions that come from opposite angles of the spectrum of publishing. One is a project called TAP, which is really focused on mobile and handheld publishing, and another is called the OSCE Toolkit, which is focused on scholarly online communication, some more journal or text book publishing. So we'll start talking about TAP. So if you'd like to, we won't go into full detail, but if you'd like to know more, you can visit the tapintomuseums.org website to get all of the details. TAP is a project that we started a few years ago at one of the Tate handheld conferences, and is a set of free software that museums and cultural organizations can use to host their stories on mobile phones. This diagram is one that we'll come back to, but on the left side of the diagram you see the cylinders represent the databases that museums keep their content in. Next to it is something called Drupal on the bottom, which is really a specific kind of content management system. TAP and the software created there is a block that sits on top of a general content management system that allows you to really think specifically about what the ways mobile content is experienced and how you're able to author that. We have worked really hard with a number of folks in the community to develop a specification or a content model for mobile content storytelling called TourML, or Tour Markup Language, that would allow the way in which you tell stories on mobile phones to be reused and repurposed in a variety of different situations. So that kiosk problem, if we had done it in this sort of an architecture, would allow us to then lift that content off of the kiosk in the gallery and plant it onto an iPad or another sort of device. This is what we're really trying to do, and we're having some degree of success already. So this is an example interface for the TAP mobile client on an iPhone. It was really our first take, and we tried to be very, very simple. So it has just a set of numbers that you dial in, and it takes you to content. Not very complicated at all. We proved that we could actually repurpose it in a number of different uses and tours in the museum. And so we were pretty confident that at least the markup language allowed us to migrate across different kinds of stories in the same software. Since that time, a number of different places have picked up the same kind of software and used it for their own museums. The upper left zebra stripe is from the Gemeente Museum in The Hague. The upper right corner is from the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. And then even deployments on iPads in the lower left and in the App Store on the lower right from the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. So now a number of other museums have been able to pick up the same model and use it to tell their stories. We've added geographic or location-aware support to the mobile versions. This is a mobile web app that would allow visitors to wander around quite a large sculpture park in Indianapolis. And this is a driving tour from the Minnesota Historical Society that uses geofencing, so that as you drive on the highway and you cross one of these geofences, it would trigger a story that happened close to where you were driving. More recently, the National Museum of the American Indian on the mall in Washington, D.C. used an updated iOS app to tell stories about jazz musicians. And so it features really great imagery and audio together, but all still published from this same set of content authoring tools used to tell all of these stories. So we're really trying to make the content the center and innovate the software in such a way that it can be reused. So again, if you're interested, tapintomuseums.org has the downloads for all the software and the community of folks who are really trying to make that happen. But what about online books? So we've talked about one end of the strategy, which is very much a multimedia storytelling effort, but we also work in museums in generating scholarship and new knowledge, and the ways in which we document that are changing too. We've worked recently with the Getty Foundation in California and with a set of 10 museums to establish a project called the Online Scholarly Cataloging Initiative. The project was started by the Getty in 2009, and we came into the mix as we were working with the Art Institute of Chicago on mechanisms for publishing scholarly review of their Impressionist paintings collection. Here's another diagram that will come back. You'll see it should remind you a little bit of the TAP diagram that I showed just a little bit ago. On the bottom are these cylinders or databases that are connected to this Drupal content authoring system. and then a layer on top of that, which is for the online scholarly cataloging initiative. And then at the very top, it's published out in a number of different forms. So second verse is same as the first, and just a little bit of a twist on that same dance we did with mobile publishing. This software is also available to you for free for publishing long-form texts and research scholarship. There is a very similar sort of content authoring tool. So the authors, or the scholars in this case, can write all of their text in Microsoft Word and simply cut and paste it into a web interface to publish. What does the thing look like? We wanted to have a really high quality reading experience, so we worked very hard to have multi-platform and multi-column layouts. This is quite a bit of a trick and requires a lot of work on responsive design, which we've talked a little bit about today. But when you're publishing a book online, you don't exactly know where it will be read. Is it on a phone or a TV or a high-resolution monitor? And so it requires some tricks on the software side for layout. So here's a 3-column layout of some text from the Impressionist catalog. And you can see that I'm going to artificially now shrink the window and watch that we begin to collapse into 2 columns, skinnier 2 columns, or a single column. And that happens automatically as the display size changes. It also happens if you're on a phone, you have it rendered in a particular way. So the computer knows what screen you're on, and the author doesn't have to. We also, when you publish online, you can use quite a bit of interactive material. So this is an interactive image that allows us to explore some of the annotations that conservators make in multispectral imaging. So this is a multi-spectral image band on top of an Impressionist painting. So you're seeing tracings of underdrawings in the X-ray and infrared spectrum drawn on top of a visible light image. So this is completely zoomable, multi-resolution, and really allows you to kind of toggle these on and off, and a different experience about what, in this case, Monet was doing as he was painting and creating this work of art. There's support for enhanced citations, search across multiple catalogs, and we're looking at ways to really support annotation. I think this is a key point here, is that as we begin to publish online and expect that to be a resource for audiences to refer to, we'd like to be able to support their note-taking. In this case, it looks like Post-it notes, but what we realized when we did this is no one really wants to take notes in my system. Because they'd never be able to lift it out and get back to it. So we're really looking and waiting for an annotation spec to emerge in the publishing area that would allow a scholar to take notes in this catalog and own those notes independently or migrate it to a different catalog. We don't have that yet. The user interface is ready to go, but we're waiting for the publishing industry to agree on an annotation spec. So again, we've seen 2 very similar approaches, essentially software systems architecture, and forgive me for the dorky block diagrams, but you can see that they have a lot of similarities. And what we're beginning to realize is that there's this impending collision between what is mobile publishing now and what is scholarly or online publishing. So all of the push around digital publishing of books and a simultaneous push happening around digital media on mobile devices, you can see those coming closer and closer together. At a certain point, you're seeing digital scholarship involving more and more media, and you're seeing museum mobile content involving more and more content. So where do those 2 things overlap? I don't think we know yet. But again, as you prepare for publishing to multiple platforms, just consider the architecture underneath it. Thanks very much.